You know, many people look at the stories surrounding the death and the resurrection of Jesus, and they'll often point out that the stories differ. Who saw him first? When did they see him? This type of thing. It doesn't really matter. If the police are examining some crime, and if they have several witnesses to the crime, they will take down statements from those witnesses. If those statements agree at every point, they will recognize there is something wrong. What it means is that these so-called witnesses have got together, have discussed it, and have arranged their story. See, each person sees it from a different point of view, and each person records what they see from their point of view. And so what they hear and what they see may be completely different from what other people hear and see. The truth is still the same. Jesus was arrested, sentenced, crucified, killed, buried, rose from the dead. All of these truths are there. And throughout their lives, this is what the apostles were going to declare, that the person they'd lived with, the person they'd ate with, the person they'd shared with all of these years, this person was still alive. He had risen from the dead. Statements made by individuals may differ, but the truth remains the same. In Luke's Gospel, he jumps immediately now from the women. The women, like Mary Magdalene and others, go back to the apostles and they say, we've seen him, he's alive, he's alive. And the other apostles, being typical men, say, no, it's just women being hysterical. Of course he's not alive. We know he's dead. He's not alive. Of course he's dead. Don't know what's happened, but that man is dead. We know it. So much so that two of them, on that morning, decide that they're going to go back to Emmaus. They've been there for the Passover. They couldn't travel on the Saturday. They'd had 2 Sabbaths that week. They couldn't travel on the Saturday. On this Sunday morning, they're going back to Emmaus. And as they go on their journey, they come across somebody else heading towards Emmaus as well. And they're talking and they're downcast. And this person comes up and walks along with them and he says, why are you so downcast? And they said, well, are you the only person in Jerusalem that doesn't know what's happened? They tell this stranger about Jesus, whom they had thought was going to be the Messiah. But he's been arrested and he's been killed. And they say, and now the hysteria is growing because some of the women say they've actually seen him. But of course that can't be true because we know he's dead. And as he walks along, Jesus starts to talk to them. And he points out to them all the things concerning himself in the Old Testament. Because that's where the stranger was. It was Jesus. He points out to them all the truths from the Old Testament. He says, this is why it happened. This is how it's supposed to happen. This is what God planned to happen. This is not an accident. This is not something to be worried about. This is something to rejoice at, because God's plan is being fulfilled. And then he gets to the house and they say, well, it's a bit coming towards the evening now. Come in and have a meal with us. And he agrees. And being the guest, they offer him the food and he takes the bread and he breaks it. He gives thanks and breaks the bread. And with that act, there must be something very special about that act. These people knew him so well. There must be something very special about the way he did it. Because suddenly they realize who it is. It's Jesus. And then he disappears from their sight. They go racing back to Jerusalem, about 5 or 6 miles. I don't expect they walked despondently back towards Jerusalem. I expect they almost raced it, trying to outdo each other. And they get back there, and they say, we've seen him, we've seen him. And by this time, of course, the other apostles were in the upper room. And they come in, they say, we're getting all these strange stories coming in. We don't know what to make of it. And suddenly there is Jesus in their midst. The doors are locked. There's nobody had opened the door. He just comes into their midst and he stands there. He shows once again that he is in complete control of the situation. He can come and be with them where they are. And they're terrified. Is it a ghost? What is it? What is it? And Jesus knew that there was going to be a problem here, because when he had to go again, they would probably say to themselves, it must have been an hallucination, So he says to them, have you got anything to eat? And they say, well, we've got a bit of broiled fish. He said, give me the broiled fish. So he'd have ate the broiled fish and then left just probably a little bit over at the end on the table. Then when he finally disappeared, the people said, must have been imagination. And they say, no. Hallucinations don't eat fish. There it is, left over on the table. So you remember Gabriel with Mary, he said, Elizabeth is pregnant. And when she went to Elizabeth, it was so. He was showing her it was not an hallucination. Now Jesus was doing the same thing. He was blessing his people and showing them he was still alive. Amen.